Welcome everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're really pleased to be joined by one of our nutrition experts, Pilar Manzanaro from Purple Carrot Nutrition, who's going to be demonstrating some fertility-friendly lunch recipes for us. Pilar is a nutritional therapist who provides individualised support investigating the root causes of infertility. The Purple Carrot Nutrition team include a functional medicine practitioner, a nutritionist and cooks that specialise in hormone balance, improving natural fertility. They can also support with IVF and conditions such as PCOS, endometriosis, etc. So I'll now hand over to Pilar, who is going to do a wonderful demonstration for us. Thanks, Pilar.
Thank you so much for having me, and hi everybody. I can't see you guys, but I'm guessing that they are somewhere in the background. So a bit of a disclaimer before we start. I'm awful with technology, probably due to my age. So I have tried, and I'm going to try my best. If it goes wrong, I'll do my best to get back on Zoom again. So what I was thinking of doing today is doing a bit of a. It's going to be more for them, sort of like a stage demonstration because of COVID, I don't really have access to my team, so they can't really come and help me with the cooking. I hold in the camera and all that. So you're going to see all the ingredients. You can see some of the steps. I'm going to talk you through all of them, and I'm also going to add bits of nutritional information as we progress through the recipes, and then you will see the final dishes as well. I talk a lot and I talk very, very fast, but it seems to me is that there is so much information about nutrition, and nutrition is so important for fertility. I don't want to leave anything that might be useful for you guys. So if it gets too much, raise your hands, like slow down, and I will. Okay, so the things that we're going to cook today are, for me, when I look at fertility, I don't really look just as egg quality or sperm quality or hormonal balance. I mean, those issues, so like hormonal balance and egg or sperm quality, go really hand in hand. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on, if you've been told that you got low egg reserve, if there's a bit of an issue with your sperm or your partner's sperm, we're going to focus on those a little bit. But you will see how the hormonal theme sort of like creeps in time and again. So if you've got any questions, please do ask them, because the more dynamic this session becomes, it's more useful for you and it's more fun for me. And I don't think anybody wants to listen to me talking for an entire hour. I think it might get a little bit on the heavy side. All right, so you guys have the recipes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce them a little bit. I'm just sort of going to tell you why I've chosen these particular ones. So the first one is an omelette, and I know typically, I mean, I'm from Spain. You can hear it from my accent probably, or you definitely can tell that I'm not British. In Spain, we eat eggs not really for breakfast, kind of ever. We tend to have them for light lunches or suppers, because as you might know, we eat supper way late into the evening. So I thought it was a good idea, because even if we're working from home, we don't have an awful lot of time to make lunch. So an omelette is one of the quickest and most rewarding foods that you can do, because you put it together very quickly and it tastes absolutely delicious, warm or cold. And if you've got time for lunch, that's brilliant. If you want to make it for breakfast, you can do that as well. If you need it for a quick supper, that works too. And the same with soups. So one of the things that I sort of like trying to sort of get into my clients' schedule is not just that they have to cook every single meal from scratch. Ideally, absolutely, but we're all busy, right? So sort of finding, like an hour and a half every single day to make your lunch, your breakfast, your dinner might be a little bit of a challenge. So there is a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of batch cooking that I sort of build into my clients' programs. And there's also simple dishes like very nourishing soups that in the winter work beautifully, because they warm you from the inside out, right? And also they can be packed with nutrients. You can make batches of them, you can freeze them, you can defrost them. So unless you've got an issue with, say, for example, histamine, and very good with reheated food or with leftovers, soups are a great way of cutting back the time you need to spend in the kitchen. All right, so without any further delay, let me just show you the ingredients that we're going to be using today and why we're going to be using them. So because I don't have a camera person, I'm going to have to use the phone, right? So I'm going to show you. Let me just turn the camera around. Can I do that? Yeah. There you go. Okay, So you got the recipe there. I'm sure you got a copy as well. And some of the ingredients we got on the table today for this wonderful omelette is loads of herbs. I think that the recipe was calling for coriander, but I'm one of those people that I actually quite like my greens, right? So the more the better, and the more variety, the better. For two reasons. The first one is if you always eat the same thing, you're going to get incredibly bored, and your body is only going to get those particular nutrients. So the more different foods you can bring into your diet, the better. And those are my glasses in the background. Yep, both of them, because I need loads of them. Now, just dropped an onion. So onions, one of my absolutely favorite foods. Why? Because they taste delicious. That's to start with. They're very humble foods. They're very cheap. They're very easy to find. Let me just get the one that fell. Hang on. And because there's a reason why I've got a white and a red one, right? Because again, variety is amazing, but the more different colors, the better, as I said before. And the darker your foods, the more nutritious. And you know why? Because the color comes from the antioxidants, from the phytonutrients that help us decrease oxidation. So when we're talking about preserving egg quality, sperm quality, they're staying healthy, because at the end of the day, our eggs and sperm are made out of cells, right? So if we're preserving their quality, we're preserving our health as a whole as well. So then the darker the color, the more phytonutrients. So a red onion, it's got a lot more phytonutrients than a white onion. Sort of red peppers packed with phytonutrients, green peppers, the same as well, right? So bring colors onto your diet. And also onions are great to support your detox pathways, right? So if you're trying to sort of lower the toxin load, and especially if you sort of losing a little bit of weight because you're overweight or you're on the obese spectrum and you've been recommended to lose weight in order to support your fertility, supporting those detox pathways is very important, because as you lose weight, your fat cells burst and all the toxins that are inside need to come out somehow. So onions are definitely your friend. And they also support your gut. They feed the good bacteria in your gut. You never knew anybody could talk so much about onions, but hey, I can. And I'm sure I've left some things behind that I could bring to the table as well if I sort of came up with them as well. So spices, things like garlic, chilies, dry spices, amazing. And most of you would already know this, but spices are anti-inflammatory. They got lots of nutrients in. They're fresh, we're looking at all those phytonutrients again, from the spicy peppers. We're looking at garlic, knowing that it's feeding the good bacteria in your gut. It's going to help you excrete those toxins. But with dried spices, they also anti-inflammatory. And inflammation promotes oxidation. Inflammation can hurt the quality of your eggs and sperm, right? So whenever you can, add a little spice. If you don't like it spicy, sort of hot spicy, then you can use turmeric, you can use coriander, you can use cumin, you can use ginger. We use ginger for the soup. Bring those along. Now, we've got eggs. I always go for organic free-range eggs, because first of all, I feel bad for the birds, but also the more organic, the better. If they're organic, that what the eggs have been or the chickens have been fed with, it's something that is not going to be highly processed. It's not going to have any chemicals. Those eggs are going to be cleaner. That's the first thing. And then eggs are really high in protein, right? And in order to produce good quality egg and sperm, we do need protein. Why do we need protein? Because as we reproduce, we're replicating your DNA, or our DNA. Our DNA is made of amino acids that are found in protein. That's why it's so important to eat enough protein throughout the day. I don't know if there's any vegetarians listening. I don't know if there's any questions in there so far, but there's a lot of sort of debate about whether, sort of being vegetarian, being vegan supports your fertility or not. And one of the things that I tend to always recommend is to make sure you get enough protein. And there's a massive, massive difference between, animal protein, and we'll see there's a little bit of beef sitting on the counter as well. I'm going to show you in a minute, and a vegetarian protein that we're going to have in the soup, because the vegetarian protein does not seem, it isn't complete. You don't get all the amino acids you need, whereas with the animal protein, you do. Right, so in terms of ingredients, this is what we're going to use for our omelette. Can I just ask, Karen? So far, so good? Can you see? I don't know if you can see the shadow of my head, but I don't know how to get rid of that.
That's okay, it's perfect. We can see everything
I'm
clearly.
really sorry about that bit.
No, it's great.
Okay. Right. Now, so on to the second recipe. So this is the, what I was talking about earlier, the soup. And I mean, I like soup, sort of like disclaimer again, I like soup and I'm quite fond of it. But it's a good way of packing tons of things like, good fats from coconut, some nuts and seeds, some veggies, even, actually these veggies come here. Okay, I'll talk about those in a minute. Some vegetarian protein, again, some spices in just one bowl of goodness. And then, as I said earlier, you don't need to cook this you don't need to make a soup every single day. You can make a couple of soups, freeze them, and then get them out of the freezer as you need them. So ingredient-wise, the things that the core of the soup, again, is onions. I'm not going to repeat that again, promise. So remember, onions are good. Red are even better because they got more phytonutrients. We're going to use some ginger now. One of my most favorite foods in the sort of like health repertoire. Why is that? Well, because it's an anti-inflammatory food, and because the lives we lead right now, in terms of always being busy, always being stressed, running from A to B to C, not sleeping enough, that's very pro-inflammatory. So anything that we can get into our system that is naturally anti-inflammatory, like your ginger, your garlic, that's a bonus for your egg and sperm quality. Yeah. Now, protein, we've got some beautiful organic red lentils here. I am very fond of these ones because they cook incredibly quickly. They have protein, although, as I said earlier, it's not complete protein. So they are very good in terms of giving us a bit of protein and B, fiber. So you sort of working on excreting you're working on regulating your digestive system, so you become more regular, you excrete toxins more effectively. Then lentils are your friend. Now, I love topping my soups with something crunchy, and because croutons are probably not the right thing to do when you're trying to eat more healthily, I've come up with this little mix of seeds and buckwheat. So here we have a mix of, I just kind of like mix it up, like, whatever I fancy the day or wherever it's sitting in the cupboard. I just put them on a pan on the low heat. They kind of warm up a little bit. They get a little bit crispy. And as soon as they start popping, I take it off. They get really crunchy. They've got tons of really good fats in them. They've got protein. They've got fiber, and they really take the soup to the next level. So what do we have here? So we've got some pumpkin seeds that have tons of magnesium for relaxing and supporting our hormonal balance. We got a little bit of, get a bit closer to the camera. The little sort of roundish things, those are what we call cassia. So it's buckwheat. It's not wheat. It's not even a cereal. It's a seed, right? And just think about it. So if you plant a seed, not these particular ones because they've been toasted and everything, but if you plant a seed, you can actually, with a bit of luck, and if I'm not around because I can kill anything that grows, you might get a plant. So imagine how much goodness, how many nutrients are inside that seed in order to sort of, when you eat it, in order to nourish you. So bring seeds along, eat them, especially if you've got any sort of like estrogen sort of, balancing needs. Things like flaxseed could be fantastic for that. So that's that on the seeds. And I always add a little bit of chili, very nice, warming spice, and it's also quite anti-inflammatory. Now, this lovely soup recipes here is made with butternut squash, and I've got one already ready for you to see. It's actually not, I tell a lie. I didn't make it with butternut squash because I wanted to give you a variation. I've made it with sweet potatoes, right? But what we've got here is just an array, different sort of little pumpkins. So again, variety is the spice of life. Don't just stick with one thing and keep eating it and cooking it all the time. Mix it up a little bit. Different foods, different nutrients. Yeah. So if we move around here a little bit, you'll see the soup. This is what I call pulling a Nigella Lawson, that is. So I made one before. So the soup is ready, and at this point, what I would do is warm it up. obviously not on the microwaves, right? So you get your pan and you warm it up gently. You can top it up with, bear with me 1 second, with a little bit of olive oil. I absolutely adore olive oil. Again, olive oil is packed with antioxidants, and it's got something amazing. It's called vitamin E, on top of the really good monounsaturated fats. And vitamin E is very good to preserve the quality of your eggs and sperm. Now, let me just turn the camera a little bit so I can talk for a little bit, because it sounds a bit weird when you can't really see me. Okay, so you can see my cookbooks up there. There's loads of them. We've got time. I'll show you the rest of the collection. There's loads absolutely everywhere. Now, what I did last night, I was thinking, well, if I'm not using butternut squash and I'm using sweet potato, what else can I use that sweet potato for? Just to give you one more option. So another thing I tell my clients is, I want you to cook fresh, I want you to add variety, I want you to eat a well-balanced diet, but I don't necessarily need you to cook every single day. So if you're roasting sweet potato in the oven, why not save some before you put it in the soup, and make yourself a little bit of a salad for lunch. So what do we have here? So we got some spinach, as you can probably tell. We've got some roasted sweet potato, but you can use butternut squash as well, right? So roasted root veggie, butternut squash, sweet potatoes, pumpkin. They're very high in something called beta carotene. Beta carotene is an antioxidant. Again, it preserves quality of sperm and eggs, but it's got one added benefit to it. Beta carotene can be transformed into vitamin A, and vitamin A is very important for hormonal production. So see, hormones are coming in because your hormones need to be in balance in order for you to be able to mature those eggs and A, produce, and B, mature sperm appropriately. Yeah. So what would I do with this bit of salad? Again, I would do a lovely dressing. So today it's just going to be a little bit of olive oil, but typically I like my dressings. So there will be a little bit of lemon. There might be a little bit of pomegranate molasses. Bring on the flavors, because eating healthily does not mean eating boring. Not at all. If you're eating boring, you're doing something wrong, right? Now, what am I missing in this salad? It's good and it's very healthy and it's well balanced because it's got a little bit of last night's leftover beef. Again, so something from last night. Beef is really important, or animal products are really important again for protein. Remember, I just mentioned it before. But also, beef is high in CoQ10, in ubiquinol. I bet you anything that you guys are all taking your ubiquinol, you know all about it. But just remember that anything you guys get from the diet, anything that comes from a natural source, is always going to be a lot more powerful than anything that comes from a pill. So unless, because of your, for religious issues, beliefs issues, ethical issues, you're not eating any meat, do you try to add a little bit of organic, grass-fed red meat every now and again? Any questions so far? Because I keep yapping away and I'm just wondering.
So far, but are there any alternatives? So if someone is a vegetarian and doesn't eat meat, is there another source for ubiquinol, a natural source?
Spinach. I'll put them there. Thank you for the question. I forgot that bit. So spinach, for example, are really, so the highest source of ubiquinol would be your organ meats, which, honestly, I can't handle. I could put a little bit of a bolognese and just pretend it's not there, but eating liver is just not something I can do. So I kind of go very, very lightly on that. But if you like it, it's also a very good source of vitamin A, right? So as long as you either you sort of preparing yourself for pregnancy, but you're not actively trying, or you don't only eat those foods prior to ovulation, just to make sure that you don't have excess of vitamin A, which could be teratogenic, might be a really good thing, because research shows that we tend to be a little bit on the deficient side of vitamin A. So it might be a good thing to do. However, supplementing with vitamin A, pure vitamin A, is probably not safe, right? So beta carotene, that comes again, from your spinach, your dark sort of orangey vegetables, so your carrots, your sweet potato, your butternut squash. That beta carotene can be turned into vitamin A. However, we all have genetic variations that make it, for some of us, it's more difficult to turn that beta carotene into vitamin A. So just to stay on the safe side, or if you've done your DNA profile, which I think is a brilliant thing to do when you're trying to conceive, then do try to have a little bit of vitamin A. But just remember, if you're trying actively to conceive, do it prior to ovulation. Of course, that's if you If you're a woman, if you're a man, you can have it, right? Because there's no ovulation involved in there. And then one more thing. Pomegranate. It's got to be, I think it's actually one of my absolutely favorite fruits in the world. So pomegranate is packed with anthocyanins. It's an incredibly good and powerful antioxidant. And what it does is, it preserves egg and sperm quality. I haven't opened it yet because I ran out of time. Sorry about that. But if you add a few seeds to the salad, the flavor profile goes like a couple of notches, but also the color, right? That visual sort of appeal for the food will go up quite a little bit. So, any other questions on this?
No, I think it's good. I just had a question actually. If people are short of time and want to use frozen fruits and vegetables in their cooking, is that recommended, or do you think it's better to cook with fresh?
And you mean frozen as, yeah, okay, not frozen at home, but both frozen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have some frozen vegetables in my freezer, right? They're very easy to use, like things like peas, edamame beans, and I actually buy artichoke hearts already frozen because they come clean, and that's amazing. However, they have been processed, right? So should it be your main source of vegetables? Absolutely not, because for example, with peas, they're parboiled. And when you boil a vegetable, what happens? The water-soluble nutrients like vitamin C disappear very quickly. So on occasion and as backup, absolutely. All the time? No.
Yeah.
But it can be a good addition.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Okay, so what, let me just see if there's anything else. Okay, so shall we have a little, just a little look at, hang on a second, I think there was a bit of a smudge on camera. Okay, so in terms of fats, let me just sort of make a comment on fats and then we'll get cooking a bit. Okay, so here, can you see that well? Yeah, so I'm not trying to place any brands, obviously, but it's basically what I had in the cupboard. So organic coconut oil, organic coconut milk, they've got good fats. They got medium chain triglycerides that bypass the usual sort of ways how our body makes energy. They go straight into the cell structure. They're actually really healthy in terms of promoting our egg and sperm quality. It's got a high smoke point as well, so when you're frying, it's not a bad thing to sort of look into what fats to use with in regards to the smoke point, so they don't burn. Because when you burn food, the sort of, I mean, I'm sure if you're working with a nutritionist, they will have told you about this, but things like, if you are, sorry, this camera doesn't come across very professional, does it? It's like okay. Sorry about that. Next time it is, and next time, and we don't have COVID, it would be a lot more, like it used to be, more professional. Anyway, so in terms of oxidating fats, like burning them, when you got oil in a pan and it goes smoky, check it out. Right, it's one of the worst things that you can do, because one thing is oxidating fats or fats mainly. When you're producing energy out of them inside your body, that's a normal process. Your body has a way of zapping that oxidation with antioxidants. But if you feed yourself oxidated food already, that's kind of a different ball game, right? It kind of becomes quite intense. All right, any sort of questions, comments, anything there so far?
Nothing so far, but if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat or
okay, so
or unmute and ask.
So what I'm going to do now is, hang on a second, I'm going to put the camera up here. And okay, so I've got a little list of things that I really wanted to mention. Just make sure that I haven't forgotten anything here. Yes, one thing I forgot. So we talked about Q10, we talked about vitamin A, we talked about antioxidants, several times already. We talked about vitamin A, but vitamin E, I'm not quite sure, but vitamin E is one of the most important antioxidants. And one of the things it does as well is it recycles vitamin C. So it's one of those things that it's actually really good to have good stores. It's fat soluble, so when you sort of accumulate it in your body, it stays there for a little bit, and it protects you, and it protects your gametes, your egg and sperm. And you find it in spinach, but you find it in avocado as well. So one of the dishes that was sort of like considering making today was making a ceviche. So making some salmon, sort of just marinating it in citrus fruits, and not really cooking it, so that beautiful fat doesn't get oxidized, and also adding a little bit of avocado, because then the fat profile goes to a completely different level, and it's got vitamin E to protect those fats from oxidating, which is amazing. And then if you add some Brazil nuts, which I kind of like chop very small and put on top for a little bit of crunch, then you got more selenium on top of that, which is another antioxidant. So that's a fantastic thing to do. Now, in terms of what you could top that soup with. So remember the soup we had here. So I'm going to top mine, and I am going to have this for lunch later, by the way. So I'm going to top it with my little seed mix. But one other thing I wanted to add, as you have any at home, was some Brazil nuts, because selenium is a very important antioxidant, and it's also very important for male fertility. They got a little bit of zinc, just like all nuts, and because the soil is becoming more and more depleted of this mineral, we are becoming more and more deficient. So eating Brazil nuts, especially if your thyroid is a little bit on the low side, because it can support conversion to the active form of thyroid hormones, it's a really, really good thing. Now, so we've seen the soup, we've seen the ingredients, we've seen the variation of the soup with the sweet potato and the little bit of meat. Now, I'm gonna make the omelette, and I'm gonna try to show it to you as I go along. I'm gonna try my best. Let's see how that goes. Now, if we were on TV, there would be some music, and maybe there's a little cut or something, but I'm just gonna turn this around, and I'm gonna come over here. So, this is my hob, and so the one thing I was just going to mention in terms of herbs. So this is kind of my little workstation here. I'm going to see if I can actually hold the tripod on my phone, doesn't collapse completely. Let's see. Here we go. You might be able to see a little bit of it. I'll try to clip on this side. It's just tricky. Now, in terms of herbs, you know how you can buy fresh herbs, like the ones I showed you yesterday a second ago. So I just kind of like ripped a little bit off, and I'm just going to sort of like get another little bit here, and some of this beautiful mint as well. Yeah, but at the end of the day, we use herbs as a garnish, right? But we don't have to. It's a vegetable, right? So if you eat lots of herbs, this handful of herbs, of course, it smells delicious. It's a portion of veg, right? So what I'm going to do is, can you see them? I'm not quite sure you can actually see the herbs themselves.
Not quite. Yeah, that's better. I can see them.
Let me see. Where can you see?
Oh,
I got the wrong corner.
Yeah,
I got the wrong corner. There we go. See, that's the thing. At that distance, I need my glasses, but for chopping, I can't wear my glasses because I chop my finger. Okay. You see that now?
Yes, just in the corner. If you move it towards you, you can see. Yeah, there. Perfect.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
I can show you my chopping skills. How about that? All right. So you can chop them as thinly as you like. You can add a little bit of kale in here. You can add a little bit of spinach if you like. And one of my tricks is if I'm making this, for more than just me and my husband, now that we're both at home, then what I tend to do is
Sorry, that's my doorbell.
So you just get the processor and chop it like literally a second. You don't need to sort of like chop for hours. Now, okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna whisk the eggs. This same bowl over here. Not a very complicated thing to do. And there is in terms of where to keep your eggs, I do keep them in the fridge. However, if I do remember, I try to take them out of the fridge well before we cook them, because cooking foods, from a very sort of from a cold temperature into a lot of heat, that creates harmful compounds. So if you can keep them on the counter, or sort of cooled, warm them up a little bit naturally, You know, just leaving them around for like an hour or so before you cook them. That is a good thing. Very useful implement.
Do you think it's best to store them in the fridge?
This thing's happened. I just spilled the eggs. I'm just teaching you to cook, and I just spilled the eggs when I was beating them. Let me get another knife.
We've still got enough.
Right. So, what was the question?
Do you think it's best to store the eggs in the fridge?
I keep them in the fridge because I don't know when I'm going to use them, so I don't want them to go off either. So I keep them in the fridge. But if I know I'm going to use them in the morning, I might take them out in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm sort of pushed for time, sometimes so if I'm making dippy eggs, right, like, you know, sort of like soft boiled eggs, then I might just sort of like soak them for a little bit in hot water, and then they get to room temperature. So you don't go from like, you know, sort of nice and cold, or from very cold to very hot in a space of seconds. Okay, so let me just get the ingredients because they're behind me now. Right, I'm going to do a little bit more chopping. So now this kind of depends on how hot you like your food, right? So I don't use the seeds because I find it a bit intense. And if you're using a bird's eye chili, definitely not. And I'm not going to go overboard with it either, right? It's lunchtime. So I'm just going to use this a little bit, and I'm going to chop them really nice and small. Yeah, leave that bit there. That's got a little seeds. But if you like it spicy, go for it, right? If you like it spicy and it doesn't upset your tummy, can you see? Can you see more or less? Can you? There we go.
Yes, almost.
You see at least a little corner of that. Now you mix it with your lovely little herbs. I'm going to put this on the side. You're going to see that there, but it's okay. And now a bit of onion. If you got some spring onions, if you got a little bit of leek, might be a good thing as well. Onions, leek, garlic, they're incredibly good for your gut. However, leek tends to be quite wet, so be careful when you put it in normally because it ends up being a little bit on the runny side. Now, so I like it quite nice and small. But that depends on how much you like your onions. I love them, but I like them nice and well cooked. Bits in here. I'm going to leave that for later. I'm not making a particularly big one. So this could actually be, if so you're sort of celebrating Christmas with a family, you know, you're sort of making the most of the new allowance. It could be a nice Christmas breakfast, right? Relatively quite healthy, relatively easy to make, and not too heavy, preparing you for what's to come, right? Now, a bit of peppers. I'm going to use red. I think the recipe might be calling for green. No, it's for red. I like color in my food. It's going to add a little bit of pepper here. Can remove the rib. It's just not particularly nice to chew on, and it doesn't really add a color. So the more colorful, the better. And this pepper is, you know, again, full disclosure, from the supermarket, nothing special. But if I go to the farmer's market and I get those beautiful sort of huge Spanish peppers or the Italian Romano ones, that's just absolutely fantastic. So what I do is I tend to eat those raw, because peppers, you know, when you sort of look for vitamin C, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Citrus fruit, and possibly kiwis, maybe kiwi fruit. Peppers have more vitamin C than citrus fruit. Yeah, so go for it. It's great with hummus. If you're looking for a light but nutritious snack, it's a great thing to do. So now is when we sort of like look at what spices to use. So I'm not going to go too spicy today. I'm just going to get a little bit of, I like turmeric. It's one of the most anti-inflammatory spices you can get. So I'm going to do a bit of a combination of turmeric, a little bit of, you see here? Oh yeah, you can see it here. Oh, I found my corner now. So I love turmeric. So, and if any of you, sort of dealing with any inflammatory conditions, or just sort of like trying to reduce inflammation to improve quality, I'm pretty sure you've heard about curcumin. You might be taking some supplements. That's brilliant. And if you're taking supplements, good quality supplements, that will be at a medicinal dose. But anything that you can get from the diet is great. Okay, so now you can do two things. If you like your veggies nicely cooked before you sort of start, if you don't like your veggies with a crunch, especially your onions, you find them a bit intense if they're not properly cooked. You can cook them before you put the egg on. If you're happy just sort of with a little bit of crunch and a little bit of spice, you can do them all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the onions a little bit of a cooking before we make the omelette, just to sort of make them a little bit sweeter and not quite as strong. And I'll tell you what I'm doing next, because I've chopped the onion and my eyes are really suffering. So this onion is going to be fiery. So I'm just going to, I'm going to tame it a little bit before I have it. So now, in terms of what oil to use, we talk about oils, right? I'm going to use a little bit of coconut oil because I think it goes really well with the flavors. But if you're making let's see, can you see the pan? No, but I'll show you. So that's my pan. Yes. And we can talk about the pan in a second. I'm going to struggle to sort of show you the pan, so you're going to have to see that. Oops. Okay. So you're going to have to look at me while I'm cooking. So in terms of what cookware to use, and that's, we could basically, spend 3 hours talking about this and debating it. I tend to go for as natural as possible. So Teflon is amazing because it's non-stick, and it really helps with the washing up and whatnot. However, Teflon is made with chemicals that have been, several, with several pieces of research linked to cancer. So I will be careful with that. So if you can get yourself a pan like this one, it's basically stainless steel. I think this is a professional pan. I'm sure you can get them online. You need to oil them well. You need to heat them up well, and sometimes they still do stick. But I did try this morning. I made an omelette this morning. It did not stick, right? So it is okay. It's a better and it's a healthier option for you guys. All right, so I'm gonna cook the onions down a little bit of the coriander is going there. How are we doing for time and everything?
It's 5:45.
So just a little bit longer to make the omelette. So let me just get this down. I'll show you. So basically, let's. Sorry.
Yeah, the camera's going.
I know. Hang on. Because I picked up the fan. Okay. See? Yes, sauteing the onions. See, you see how quick it is to just make this as lunch.
It's making me hungry.
Me too. But I'm, now I get a choice. I can have the soup or I can have the omelette. We'll see. What's everybody having for lunch today?
I think I'm actually going to have omelette today. I'm going to go make an omelette after this.
How about everybody else? Come on. You know who to talk to today.
Anyone?
Tell us, what are you guys doing? The guys listening, the guys watching, what are you having for lunch?
A lot of people tend to like to just watch, don't they? And not, some people don't like to interact so much. That's okay. You can watch.
Okay, that's good. All right. So the onion is nice and soft. And the phone pulse now is getting cooked in the omelette. Okay.
And can people sort of adapt the recipe slightly? If they had other things in their fridge, could they just throw them into this?
Yes. Yes. So one of the things, you know, you probably saw the mushrooms earlier. I'll tell you about the mushrooms. So white button mushrooms are very good to regulate testosterone levels if needed, right? So it's one of the foods that I quite like recommending. However, we don't seem to eat that many of them for some reason, right? So I just thought we could put some in the omelette, but I didn't really prepare them. So you can use some mushrooms. You can slice them and put them on top if you want to. You can do spinach. You could. You know what? If it's a kind of like a wet food, like, you know, courgette, spinach, it might actually make it watery. Mm. If it makes it watery, well, it turns into scrambled eggs. No big deal. It might turn into scrambled eggs if it sticks at the bottom. So we'll see. No, it's doing well. Let me just show you. I'm going to put the herbs on top. Okay, let me show you. Nice, nicely cooking there.
Colors are amazing.
So now you can do two things. I mean, if I was making a Spanish omelette, you know, the one with the potatoes and the onions and all that, it would be really, you know, nice and heavy. And I will put a plate on top of the pan, and I will turn it, right, and it will cook on the other side. Because this is nice and thin, and we're probably looking more at it like a French type of omelette. I'm just gonna fold it. I'm gonna roll it a bit and fold it. Just remember, when you're making an omelette like this, because of the herbs and the ingredients, it's gonna be a little bit more on the wet side. So it's not gonna look like a perfect sort of French omelette, right? It's still gonna be absolutely delicious. It's not gonna be like that perfect little bit of an omelette that you get at restaurants. Okay, I'm turning it. I'd love to show you, but unfortunately, I can't today.
You don't have enough hands.
Oh, you can't see me at all. You can all can see that it's a wall.
That's okay.
I'm like busy here. All right. So it's nearly done. I mean, it's taking what, 5 minutes? So I've cut it in two, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a plate.
So you don't need to turn it over. You can just flip it in
No,
half.
you just roll it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have shown you that. And then I got some crispy sort of sugar snaps on my stew. And I'm going to sort of like serve it with. And sort of, can you see this?
Yeah.
You can see it from the side. You can see it there. Yeah. And you can make it as runny as you like. So if you like it with, you know, a little bit of sort of like runny egg in the middle, I don't. I like it quite nicely set. And if you kind of, because I mean, runny eggs are kind of a little bit of a question mark once you're pregnant. Be careful with that. There shouldn't be an issue because most of the chickens are vaccinated against salmonella, but you never know. So you can make it as solid or as liquidy as you like. And just remember to serve it with one more veg. And, you know, why not? If you sort of like, you know, I need a little bit of carbs on the side, why not having a little bit of that or that leftover sweet potato? Mm. Yeah. So it's like using your leftovers as well. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I've got. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anything else that anybody's interested on?
No other questions coming through. I just wanted to ask, are there any foods that you would recommend people avoid if they're trying to conceive? So any sort of big no-nos? Yeah, that's a really, let me just go on, get over here and sit down for a second. Yes, modern foods is more like food groups, so to speak. You know, sort of obviously sugar and anything refined is out. Yeah. Alcohol,
I mean, in kind of incredibly strict moderation, like, you know, a glass of wine every now and again, okay, drinking regularly, you basically sabotaging your own efforts, right? So not really. Um, and um, and then, you know, there's always the gluten and the dairy question.
Mm.
Um, Gluten is pro-inflammatory, dairy is pro-inflammatory as well. Um, if you've got PCOS, if you've got endometriosis, you know, there might be different combinations that we do in there just to support your condition. Are they good for you? Oh, that is a very difficult question, because typically if somebody has a beautiful diet and I'm comfortable that they can feed themselves without gluten and dairy, I take it out or I reduce it as much as possible. If I'm not quite so comfortable, then I might have to leave it in there. If there's a lot of inflammation, I will take them out. So because there isn't a, you know, a right answer for that, I would reduce. But be careful, because substitutes sometimes can be worse than the actual food.
Yeah.
So if you do sort of gluten-free bread, but then you look at the ingredients and you sort of like look at 16 different things and about half of them you don't recognize, why not be gluten, right?
Actually, I've been doing this recently, and I tried some. I've started making my own sort of seeded breads and things because they're much
Yeah.
nicer. Because I tried some of this sort of supermarket gluten-free bread, and it really doesn't taste very nice. It has a really strange taste to it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, in order to make bread, you need gluten.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that sums it up. So
Yeah.
if you want bread, I mean, you need to accept that that bread is not going to be like the lovely focaccia from the corner, you know, from the corner bakery.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. But, you know, some seeded breads, I mean, like the paleo versions. I don't know if you know of a cook, or I mean, a cookery writer called Donna Hay in Australia, but she's got a beautiful seeded bread
Okay.
that I share with my clients, and I think it's great. It's
Um,
not really bread, but God, is it good. You can use quinoa, but yeah, it's not quite the
Could
same
you
thing.
type her name into the chat, please? The name that
The
you mentioned.
recipe book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can look it up.
chat. I can't find the chat.
It should be at the bottom.
Donna Hay, and she's got the most beautiful
Perfect.
cookbooks. I seriously, her photography is amazing, and it's kind of similar to my way of cooking. It's not really, it's not complicated, but it's fresh and it's tasty and it's accessible. It's not gourmet. It's not much. It's not MasterChef, right?
Yeah. Also, I think it's like one of the points you made earlier is, you know, if you don't have time to prepare all this stuff, you're not going to do it. So it's about finding things that are easy to do, that taste nice, that you're going to actually want to make.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're looking forward to eating. But, you know, going back to that, planning is absolutely fundamental. Because if you don't plan and, you know, it gets to like, you know, 1 p.m., you go down to the kitchen, you open the fridge and, you know, there's like a can of Coke in there, you're going to call for delivery, right? Normal, right? But if you plan a little bit, I mean, I plan on Sunday. So I sit down and I write what we're going to eat, and then I do the shopping. And, you know, I mean, I gotta be honest, like sometimes it goes out of the window because something happens and you don't get, you know, the shopping doesn't arrive, and then you're like, But if you do a little bit of planning, and once you sort of like get into the habit, then things become a lot easier. And listen, your freezer is your friend. Freeze those soups, make a stew. I mean, last night when I was sort of like prepping this, I thought, I made dinner last night for today.
Yeah.
So I got a free evening, which is good. So, you know, see yourself, you know, when you plan, it's like, you know, Thursdays, I'm not cooking, I'm using the freezer. Or even better, your partner to cook, share, right?
Perfect. And I found planning is quite good to have. I have like a few weekly plans. So 1 week I know what I'm having, the next week we go into the other plan. So you don't have to think of new things every week. Sometimes it's like, actually, we'll just have that, you know, week 3, we'll have this.
Yeah, I can't do that because I can't stick, you know, I need variety and I need to try new things. And I've never been able to follow a recipe in my life.
Oh, really?
Improve it. I can't do it. It's like a physical, I mean, it's got to be genetic. I don't know. But you know, that's a really good thing. Once you get yourself into that planning role, and then you go 3-4 weeks, that's gold, right? Because it's things that, you know, you can make, you can shop for easily. And, you know, you don't have to sort of overthink things.
Yeah, and I guess you don't have to stick to that same plan every week. Maybe each week you change one thing, but then the rest of the week is the same, and at least then you know it's still a little bit variety, but then you
and then you can bring in seasonality and you know what your life is like, what you're trying to do. You know, if you sort of like had any new blood tests and you need to sort of adapt for those. Yeah, it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to do. Very good.
Really great tips. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I really miss doing my workshops. So
I know,
maybe
hopefully you can get back to those soon.
doesn't look like it. We'll
I
see.
know. Yeah.
But maybe next time we do one of these, it will be a little bit more. It's fun when there are more people because there's also more conversation and
Yeah.
we can cook more things. And yeah, no, it's more real, so to speak. But
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want that interaction. But yes, we definitely hopefully have more questions coming through next time. So yeah, thank you so much. I think it was really inspiring. I'm now going to go and cook an omelette for lunch. I think I've
yeah,
got
good
all the things.
mushrooms. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
herbs. Anything you've got.
yeah, I think we've got all of those things, so it should be tasty. I'll let you know how it is. Um,
Fantastic. Look forward to that.
So I'll post your website address in the chat. So if anyone wants to go check it out, there's loads of great recipes on there. So please do have a look. If you want to get in touch with Pilar after this, you can find details in the expert profile section on the app, or head to the website or get in touch with us and we can connect you. And also on Saturday at 11 o'clock, we have another event with Pilar where we'll be discussing methylation and how that can affect fertility. That should be really interesting. So do come and join us for that. Again, you can find details in the event listings on the app, and we'll also post the link in our Instagram bio. So hope to see you then. So thank you so much, Pilar.
Thank you for having me.